is why we do this, because as we think about, we've talked about this with you before, but the reality is for us that we don't do this for ourselves. And at least I don't think most people do. We do this, and we've talked about this with some of you before. We do this because foundationally, we believe that the parent is the primary leader of their home and the primary spiritual discipler, the primary faith builder in their kids. And so because of that, the foundational reason that we do this is to allow parents to be fed so that they can then pour into their kids. And statistically, and another thing we've been doing, I'll just throw it out there, we have actually been doing baby dedications. So we've done 4 up to this point with individual families. And one of the things we talk about with those parents is, hey, we as a church have about 40 to 50 hours a year with your kids. This is before COVID and everything else. But the reality is parents still have about 3,000 hours a year of teachable moments with their kids. And so we want to leverage that, is the reality. And so part of what we do is to give parents an opportunity through worship, through teaching, through the messages, to grow in their faith so that they can grow their families. And so we know that a parent is going to be far more impacted. And I'm sure you, if you're parents out there, or you've been in auditoriums with kids, know that it is a lot harder to go deep, to concentrate, to focus on what God may be doing in your world when, truthfully, like, there are kids in play. And it's not bad to have kids in there. It's not wrong. But we know that that is harder. And here's the reality. I guarantee you that the moment that God wants to speak into a parent's heart is the same moment that, truthfully, like, that kid is going to need something. And it's not the kid's fault. And it's not saying that that's a bad kid. It's just the reality of how it works. I mean, I have a 6th grader, and even that 6th grader, like, when Jay is getting to a really impactful point in the message, you know what happens? She needs to go to the bathroom. And so somebody's got to go with her, but it just happens. And so part of what we get the opportunity to do is give those parents that opportunity. But the only way we get that opportunity is to do what we do well. And that has all changed in the context of COVID, as you're all aware, because no doubt you have been somewhere in what we would call our, COVID season. You have been to Publix, you have been out and about, Walmart, Target, you name it, and things are different. You have kids in school, and it is just different. And so we want to talk through tonight, what is that going to look like, and answer as many of the questions as you guys have as possible, but also being honest that the truth is, we may not have all the answers, but we're going to find them together. And the truth is that, hey, guess what? Like, we're not going to be perfect at this. We're going to continue to get better, and we're going to continue to grow. And I'll even share some examples of stuff that, even as we've tested things out, that we've gotten better at. So here's what I'm going to ask of you guys as we talk through. If you have questions, put those in the chat, because we would love to know what those questions are. But I'm hoping we're going to answer most of those for you tonight, as well as what we would then ask is, at the end, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask even more of those questions, and fire those away. And if we don't have answers, we're going to find them. And the truth is found in the group, truth be told, like the collective experiences that you guys have had in your schools and your experiences. So let's just jump right in with what's new stuff. What's going to look different. And one of the biggest things most of you have experienced is this stuff right here. What does it look like when we regather? One, we've mentioned it in some emails, but we are going to, protective gear wise, this is as much about making sure our kids and our parents are comfortable as it is protecting you guys. Because the truth is that we know that some people are not going to send their kids with us and not going to be comfortable if we're not taking certain precautions. And so one of those is, we're going to ask you, when you serve with kids, to wear masks. Now, let me be really clear. We are not mandating masks for everyone. What we are asking is our leaders, and this is true of our host team, which Tisha is now leading, and we'll kind of get to in a minute. We're asking that of our golf cart drivers. Like, if you are volunteering, when you are volunteering and serving people, we're going to ask you to wear a mask. Now, what does that mean? That means that we will provide you with a mask. We'll provide you with the disposable mask. We'll provide you with a mask that works for you. There's also potentially on the horizon some Kidlife theme masks. But what we would ask is that whatever mask you decide to wear, that it is kid friendly. That it doesn't, like, I've seen some out there, maybe you have too, that have skulls or different things on them. and that's cool in your context, but we definitely want it to be something that would be kid friendly. There will be masks that got crazy about you. These guys right here, if some of you can see, I know I'm screen sharing, but these guys will be for sale at the gear store. That if you would like to buy one of those, that's awesome. Humana sent me a bunch of these green guys, so you can wear those. That we believe, that we hope and believe will, be inviting enough, because we know that there's a barrier. Here's the upside to restarting when we are. Most of our kids have gotten used to seeing people in masks. So we're not the first. So this isn't something that's going to be new to them as far as that goes. The other thing, and that's why you see that picture of that lady, we'll just call her Felicia. She's from online. She is wearing what has been dubbed a nursery jacket. So they are lightweight jackets, but essentially the thought among leadership was that when we are holding babies, that we want parents to feel comfortable with that. And especially with those youngest. So the idea is that we will provide these, and then you wear them while you're serving with those babies. And this is going to be limited. We're only going to ask this of those of you who would actually be holding children. So in environments where you're going to hold children, like babies, you got to hold them. You can't hold them away from you. And so when you're making contact with them, this helps to ensure a parent that, hey, these are cleaned and sanitized, not that you're dirty people, but they haven't been outside in our environments. They have been washed and sanitized. And so you wear them while you serve with babies, and then you'll take them off, you'll leave them with us, and we'll take care of cleaning those. And we'll order those in a myriad of sizes to make sure that it's comfortable and fits you. And you get pockets. So there you go, I guess. And you can stand in the pose of the lady in the picture if that makes you feel better. But we are going to ask our nursery team to take that step. And the reason we tell you guys this is that if you don't feel comfortable, then we want to know that, and we want to make this an environment where you enjoy serving and feel comfortable serving too. Okay, so there's one of the hurdles. Okay, next, new stuff. What is pickup and drop off and building entry and all of that going to look like? Because if you've been to Walmart, and fortunately they've recently changed this again, if you went to Walmart anytime in the past month, you know that like they provided one entry and it was super fun, and not at all. I'm lying. But we want to make this convenient, but we want to make it done well. And so one of the things we're doing in order to provide time, not only for us to clean, but also time for to where we don't have kids for an extended amount of time, where we're also limiting some of that contact, is we're moving our drop-off time to 15 minutes before service. So unless you're volunteering, which we'll still give volunteers an hour, because we want hosts to be able to get in place, we want parking team to be able to do their thing if they have kids. But and so we'll have a separate room for all those kids. But for those who are merely attending service, we'll get to what that looks like here in a minute. We're saying 15 minutes before service. We're also considering not even opening the doors to our building a time prior to that. So such as, we haven't set the time, but like 30 minutes before, we won't even allow people in the building, simply to try to cut down on people congregating indoors. Because the whole thing with this is that we want to limit as much contact as we can to be mindful of everybody's sensitivities. And so we'll get to some more of that here in a second. And then they will be announced in service that we're asking people, obviously, unless you're staying for a second service because you're volunteering, to pick their kids up immediately after service. One of the reasons is because the time between service is limited, and in that time we've got a lot of things that we need to do in order to make that happen. So we'll get to the cleaning and what that kind of looks like and what we're talking, but we are asking that those who drop kids pick them up immediately, and there will be a traffic flow in our building so that certain doors will be entry only, certain doors will be exit only, to keep traffic flowing, to cut down on contact. We're also going to ask parents to say, hey, it's only one adult per child. So that's awesome. Grandma and grandpa came with you, but it's only one adult per child that's going to come into what we call building C, or the Kidlife building, simply to cut down on traffic, to make that more convenient. Because, hey, you know what? Truthfully, I love that 5 people come to pick up a baby, but the reality is we want to limit that for the safety and well-being of everybody. So the next thing is that you may be familiar with is temperature checks. We are, they're touchless thermometers. No doubt you've seen them. You've probably had your temperature taken with them, the infrared thermometers. We've got more of those than I care to count. Somebody for co-op the other day pulled out a box of them, and I had no idea we had that many, and that wasn't even all of them. So we have plenty to take lots of temperatures, but we are going to ask anyone who enters our Kidlife building to have their temperature checked. It's a quick process, and then we'll find some way, either a stamp, we're still kind of figuring that out, a sticker, to identify, hey, you've had your temperature checked, you're cleared, we don't have to worry about you coming and going anymore, because we want to make sure that every kid and every adult should be there and that they're well to be there. So we've been testing through that and thinking through that, and part of our soft launch will also be that as well. We will also provide a tent for volunteers, all volunteers to take temperatures in the courtyard. So we'll ask volunteers to pass through there to take temperatures before they actually enter the building. All of these obviously are protocols that you're probably familiar with if you've been to doctor's offices, schools, different places, but things that we think are important and will continue to help our people ultimately do what our goal is, which is to find a place of comfort where they can hear from the Lord and continue to grow closer to him and worship together, and feel like it is an environment that has taken steps. So next up, the fun stuff of bathrooms, bags, food, and drink. So we are eliminating we're eliminating any, and this might, some of you preschool people, take a deep breath. We're not doing snacks, at least for the foreseeable future. We've decided that there's just too much opportunity for, if you've been in any of our rooms, that you put Cheerios out for each kid and they all eat each other's Cheerios. So knowing that even for our volunteers, we're going to limit volunteer snacks and really not provide a lot of that, just to help cut down on any opportunity that might cause you to get ill, to transmit disease, whatever comes with that, unknowingly, of course. We are going to ask parents, hey, you can send a baby bottle, but what we're not going to have you do is send the entire baby bag. So we will give them a separate plastic bag that they can put whatever diaper and wipes that they're comfortable with. We will always provide those, and the bottle in that bag. They'll get a separate tag that they can label that with, so that we know that's their stuff, but we're also not taking this whole bag of things with, just to cut down on stuff and things in the room. We're also going to draw a hard line on kids bringing their own toys, for their sake and everybody else's, as hard as that may be for some kids. Reality is that's something that we obviously don't want to lead to some contamination or something that may have an ill effect on others. One of the things you'll notice in our building, you can see there are no drinking fountains. Literally, they have been removed. It was discovered early on in this whole thing, if you're not aware, that drinking fountains are one of the biggest transmitters of disease. Fun stuff you learn after you do all of this. And so they have actually not necessarily removed the drinking fountains, but put in their place water bottle fillers. So if you come and you're wanting a drink, you're going to bring your own bottle. So you can do that now. Here's the thing with that. As far as sorry, I was reading comments on the thing there. As far as drinks go, we will provide a ton of the tiny bottles of water. So the very small ones, like you can get at BJ's, those will be for you as volunteers. But also, we're still figuring out what does that look like for our kids, because we do want them to get a drink. We do want to make that a reality. It will most likely be, they will pull a Dixie cup, we will fill it with a little bit of water, they will take a drink and throw the cup away. Simply so that we're not having lots of cups sitting around, we're not ending up sharing all those kind of things. The other thing is that we are really going to limit bathroom use to only those who really need to go. Obviously, potty training and all those things come into play, but especially for our elementary kids, we're going to ask parents, hey, please take your kids to the restroom before you go, because that way we're not having to cart them in and out. We're not having to potentially move them and come into contact with that. So the term often is used contact tracing anymore. So what we're really trying to do, and part of this, is make sure we know who's coming in contact with who. So if there happens to be a case or whatever it is, even beyond COVID, we have an opportunity to inform those individuals that we're in contact. So the next thing that is that's fun in all of this is toys. And you mentioned wristbands. So this is not the wristband for temperature checks, but there are some thoughts with that, the Tyvek bands, all that kind of stuff. But and there may be a combo thing we do here as well with that. As you're throwing those comments, I love those. We've removed a bunch of what would be considered the common use toys already from our room. In fact, we have an entire room in our nursery hallway currently that's full of all that stuff. And honestly, I love that stuff. Like, I love the castles. I was an advocate for buying those things. I love the play things. I love the big playlands. I love the house, all of the kitchens. The reality is we know that that is just a place where we can create contact. And so what we're going to do is provide enough toys that will help kids to have their own sets of toys. Now, we're not asking you to be magicians in all of this. So we are going to do our very best, but here's also the thing. We have to have realistic expectations that if I ask you to put 10 puppies in a room and ask those puppies not to touch each other, it's going to be impossible. Like, it's just what it is. And that's essentially what we have when we talk about toddlers and preschoolers. So we are going to do our very best and ask you to do your very best, but also we don't want you to do is leave feeling terrible or petrified because, hey, that toddler got that toddler's toy. Like that's not the end all be all of this. The goal is that we're going to do our very best and hold high expectations, but also be realistic about this thing. The other thing that we are going to provide, and you'll actually see this if you have an opportunity to go to the prayer and worship night on Sunday, we'll talk about that here in a minute, is wristbands. So these wristbands are red, yellow, and green, signifying how comfortable you are with contact. Now, obviously, if you're in the baby area, we assume you're going to wear a green wristband, because if you don't want contact, then you can't hold a baby because that's weird. But the reality is that those wristbands, green will signify, hey, I'm good with kind of everything. Hugs, I'm okay with that. It will also allow parents to tell us what they're comfortable with their kids doing, from the standpoint of, hey, can I high five that kid, or should I even like not touch that kid because that may not be comfortable for them. The yellow is, hey, I'm good with fist bumps. I'm good with that, but please, like, don't hug me, don't high five me, that kind of thing. And then red means, hey, I'm really trying to keep my distance. And these will be provided for our kids, but also they're looking at doing it for adults. So as you come into contact with people in the auditoriums and other spaces, you'll be able to quickly identify, for those who have taken the opportunity to wear that, not going to require it, but those who take that opportunity to say, hey, guess what? Like, I know that person, I love them, but if I go hug them, it's going to get awkward, and I don't want to get awkward because they're wearing the red wristband. What we will do in Kidlife specifically is that for those that wear those, because we'll get the silicone ones and there's a cost to those, we will ask parents as much as possible to return those. We will sanitize those and then use those again the next week, so parents can pick where they're at, and that may change because of their level of comfort over time with those. And obviously, if they don't return them, not the end of the world, but something that we just want to be mindful of with all of that. Okay, so the next thing, obviously, if we've taken temperature checks, we've done what we feel like we can do. What do we do if there is a kid who is sick? So a couple of things with that. One is we have what we're calling a quarantine space now. So it is right off our Kidlife Auditorium building. Some of you kind of familiar with that room that's randomly used to be the cry room when the auditorium was in building C. That room is partly used for some general use storage stuff, but also will be a place where if we have a child who is ill, seems to have symptoms for anything, that they will be taken to that space. It's off the lobby, so we can have an adult there waiting with them for parents to pick up there. So immediately removing them from the room and really not messing around with that. Even if they're in the nursery hallway, they're going to be taken there. Now, if for some reason we feel like there was exposure in that room, whatever it was, a kid throws up, all the things that come with that, obviously, we're going to start then navigating what does it look like to move kids to other spaces and how do we do that well. And the goal ultimately is that we have another room even available that we could move those kids into if that were a need, to then sanitize that room, which we'll get to here in a minute. As far as the cleaning procedures that go along with that, this is one of the bigger changes for us, is that we are thoroughly taking steps to sanitize every kid room and space before, after, and between services. So what does that look like? That looks like parents, and that's why the drop-off pickup thing is so important, that parents pick up. our goal is that all kids who are supposed to have been picked up will be picked up within 15 minutes of service. Our facilities team, and this is where we're going to ask you guys to help us a little bit, will come in. We'll do a couple of things. First, we remove all toys from the room. So anything that has been used by another child gets thrown into buckets, taken out of the room. We have a whole new set of toys that can go into that space once we've sanitized it. Then our facilities team comes in, and I wanted a picture because it's super cool. We finally found one today that we really like. They are, the term that I love to use is an electrostatic atomizer. So it sounds really familiar. It's basically a fogger that it's basically puts an electric charge on the particles so that they stick to everything. We finally found one. We tried it out today, a battery pack operated one that will dispense. It's a solution, we call it QT, but it's a solution that kills airborne as well as surface-based, any contaminant really, that's sickness otherwise based, and it's safe. And once it's dry, it's what school systems are using. But we tested it out today, and we're super pleased that they fogged the room, and it was dry and ready to go in under 15 minutes. So we were super excited about that because it sticks to all the surfaces. What we will ask to help those rooms dry a little bit is that you as volunteers, what we would love to see for those that are comfortable with this is once they've fogged the room, it's not like a haze. So don't think of it like fog, like as in a worship center. You don't even see it in the air. But once they have sanitized the room, that we will go through with rags and actually wipe down surfaces that may seem a little damp. We'll also have fans in the room. So if you're comfortable doing that and helping us out with that, teamwork makes the dream work on that. And so we will ask you, we'd love for your assistance. And then we put a new set of toys in there, and we're ready to go for the next service, feeling confident that our spaces are clean. We're going to do that in the Kidlife auditorium. They're also planning on trying to do that. The plan is in the main auditorium as well. So they're going to clear everybody out. They're going to fog the main auditorium so that when people come in, they feel comfortable being in that space. So they're taking some pretty good steps. Our leadership has invested some decent capital into making sure that we do that. What's the technical name again? So good questions on there. So the fogger, it's called an electrostatic atomizer. I think it sounds like a mastermind's secret weapon, if I'm going to be honest. But that's its technical name. Like I said, I wanted a picture of one. It actually is made by Ryobi. I told them, hey, I've got batteries that could run that in my drill, which was fun. But anyway, and Michael's joining us. So what up, Michael? Michael, hey, if you guys weren't aware, Michael is, since we all talked about it before he got here, he's in charge of all the cleaning. So we're good with that. So we'll put him to work doing all of that. Thank you for—
No problem, Bryce. I'm happy to help.
We appreciate that.
No problem.
So as far as, Aaron, as far as kids between both services, we're going to dedicate a space for those kids. It's probably going to be room 21 is our plan. Where those kids will go into that room, and then we'll use that room, and then we'll turn it over we'll move them out once we actually start drop off for the second service. We'll move those kids back to where they go in their proper spaces, and then go ahead and sanitize that room so that it can be ready. So we're kind of we're moving kids is what we're doing, kind of moving the dominoes to clean one to then clean another kind of thing. So that's our ultimate goal with that. If you haven't heard, the question came up, let's talk scheduling and a little bit of that. So if you haven't heard, we're going to talk through schedules a little bit, but we're not starting back with a Saturday night service. And so for a couple of reasons. One is because our Vida Real, our Spanish-speaking congregation, has moved to Saturday nights, and they're actually using the Kidlife auditorium. So that provides them an opportunity to space to do church really well and do one service really well in an environment that, if you've been to the loft is great, but it definitely is hard to get to. It's not as conducive for worship, so they're going to get to meet on Saturday nights. So they are going to meet as their congregation, and then we're going to start back with Sunday. There's 2 services on Sunday. Now, here's the thing with that, is that if we don't know what the future looks like. So as we grow and as we look to see what numbers actually are, then that may mean the possibility of adding additional services. But we're starting with 2 and going from there. The national average right now for starting back people in-person services is anywhere between 20 and 30% of the traditional congregation attendance. That's just nationally what churches have seen. Here's my truth. I believe Claremont's going to be higher than that, based upon what we've seen and people's desire to get back to in-person gathering. I think we're going to be higher than that percentage, which is great and exciting. But the reality is still, even if we were at 50% of what we had seen on weekends, we still wouldn't need or wouldn't necessitate having a Saturday service if that were the case. So right now, yeah, Saturday services are only Vita Real, only Spanish speaking for that. So yeah, you guys are throwing great questions in there, so I like that. As far as, let me talk scheduling. So right now, here's the next thing that's coming down the pipe. Because, we like to just do everything at once, we are changing over our entire database system. So what that means is that actually drives check-in, that drives scheduling, that drives everything that a lot of you interact with. And so that is in the process of being switched over. You want to know, the database is actually called Rock, but a couple of reasons that we're doing it. One, it's a lot more user-friendly. Two, is it provides mobile check-in, which means no contact check-in, which is super cool. And I'm going to walk you through that it does that. It also provides a lot of other opportunities for us to do some super cool stuff. But for the time being, when we schedule you right now at this moment, we are using what you're used to with the CCB check-in, just so you can get a schedule, so you can say, oh, they are expecting me at the 9:30 or the 11:15 service, which is what our service times are landing at right now. So we haven't officially announced that to everybody because they were still trying to make sure everything made sense with transitions and all of that. But most likely our service times on Sunday will be what they have been. But that means that for you guys, we'll schedule you in that system until our new database system gets up and running, in which case then we'll transition you over to that. So not trying to throw you everything at once. Here's the cool thing. Let me show you. And for our check-in team, I think you guys are going to like this. What it does is it has a mobile feature. So as long as you're in our database and as long as your kids have attended, which we've moved everybody over into their groups, they will be promoted into their new classes when we start. So if you had a kindergartner, they will now be in first grade when we come back, obviously. Moved all of that over. If you're in there, let me show you what it looks like. So you would go to a website given. I gave you the address. Don't quote me on that, but real.life/mobile check-in. Here's a cool piece. The very first time you go, and we're going to ask you as volunteers to do this as well. You go, it has to verify some information. So you go in and make sure that it knows who you are. That then places a marker, basically a cookie on your phone that keeps you and says, okay, you do this. Now, keep in mind, the mobile check-in app doesn't allow you to change information. It doesn't really allow you to do a lot other than check in for the groups or classes you're a part of. Here's the cool thing. So once you do that, it says, hey, we're going to need to determine your location because, and this is the cool part, is that getting super techie. So for Tara out there, we geofence our property. So you can only check in when you're actually on site or within a certain radius of our campus. So you can't be at home in Winter Garden, check in, and then come here. You have to be at least on your way to check in or pretty close to campus. So it's going to ask you that. The cool thing is this can also be done for not just Kidlife, but other things as well. Once you do that, then it will identify you and say, this guy's name is Ted. Hey, Ted, glad you're here. You want to get started? Sure. So you can see Ted's family popped up there, Ted and Cindy and Noah and Alex. So Ted selected Noah and Alex. This is pretty simple stuff. Once he did that, it also said, hey, what service are you attending? So if there's two services available, he decides one or both, whichever one he's going. And then it asks him, hey, which class, if there's multiple groups, are you going to? One of the things that it should also allow, and this is where our numbers game comes into play, is that we've set maximums for groups. So we've said, hey, we can only take a maximum of 20 kids for all of what would be considered our green group. So 10 kids per room. Or, hey, for kindergarten, we're only comfortable right now taking 20 kids in kindergarten. So they can actually see how many kids are in those rooms. It allows them. Once it's full, they cannot check in. So not that we're turning people away, but we're being cautious of making sure that we don't reach a capacity that people are uncomfortable with. Once Ted did that, he checked in Noah and Alex. It popped up and it said, "Hey, you're checked in." Now all you have to do is take that QR code that you see on the screen there, and you would do this as a volunteer as well. You're going to hold it up to one of the iPads, the kiosks you guys are used to. The camera will already be set to automatically read QR codes, and it'll spit out your labels, and you'll be on your way. So you don't have to touch, you don't have to do anything other than use your device to do that. The cool thing is, if by chance you messed up, you didn't check everybody in, you closed out of it, when you go back in, it still gives you the same QR code again so that you can then scan and check people in again. Now, that only, because of our safety protocols, you can't use that and go get another set of labels again like we've done before. And Lena's well aware and of that, where, hey, you know what, like, we're going to have to reprint you labels because part of our safety protocol is you don't just get to do that. So, so it should be a really convenient way for a large percentage of our families. And honestly, we're going to push all our families to this. Hey, once you've been with us before, we want you to mobile check-in. Like, we want to make this experience as convenient as possible to get you in and out of our buildings as quickly as possible and not have to worry about us doing all kinds of things. Now, there still will be a first-time guest experience and getting them all checked in and through all that kind of stuff. But that's one reason we're super excited about this database, because it gives us that ability, and that'll even start bleeding into other opportunities for even things like groups and events check-in and stuff like that, that eventually we'll roll out. So that's our new check-in, new database. We're doing some training on that. Honestly, it's not going to be super complicated as far as that goes. It should be a whole lot more intuitive. One of the really cool things is new families can actually, Lena, get ready for this, they can actually pre-register. So they can actually give us their information ahead of time. I know, shocking. It's like technology happened. I'm just saying it fell down from heaven and allowed us to actually use technology. So they can actually ahead of time give us all their information so we don't screw it up. Like, I know I'm terrible at that sometimes, like spelling people's names wrong. So super excited about that for our first time families. So honestly, where our check-in team comes in is really just making that experience great for them and helping them to navigate some of those things. So we're excited about that. What we wanted you to know, we'll keep walking through some stuff, groups and things, but in the midst of that, also wanted you to know about some staffing stuff that is coming around. If you have not heard, our Extraordinary Life coordinator, Shauna Martell, and I think Extraordinary Life has been aware of this, she actually has transitioned out of her role because this happens in ministry. She felt like God was calling her to something even more. So I know, like, careful when you get involved in ministry in a church, because God will do that to you. So she is actually partnering with an awesome organization to essentially help them do special needs ministry to their missionaries. So to teach their missionaries, how do you minister to those with special needs around the world? Like, such a cool thing that it started with Extraordinary Life, and that God has opened that opportunity it's called YWAM. It's just up in Montverde, or Youth with a Mission is the name of it. So she has taken this huge step. So you can be praying for her, because we are super pumped about that. But equally, we're excited that God has opened the door. And this is, don't let us take your picture on CCB. I've always promised I would never use CCB pictures unless, of course, you're going to be on staff, then you're fair game. So that's your own fault. This is Josh. He wasn't able to join us tonight. This is Josh Kaminsky. So God opened the door. He's been part of our Soto campus for a while. And Josh actually is a special needs teacher at a local public school. He actually has a master's degree in special needs. So for our Extraordinary Life team, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to get to know him. We'll talk about regathering and what that looks like. We're going to give you an opportunity to get to know him after one of our times of doing that on the 20th. So we'll send that out specifically to Extraordinary Life. You can get to know him. The other thing we wanted you to know is Sarah Worley has decided that in this season of life that the commitment of being part of our actual staff team is a little much. So she's stepping away. So the reason we tell you that, because she's been doing nursery stuff and she still wants to stay involved. She's not going anywhere. Just timing and God's season stuff for her, which we think is awesome, and are fully supportive of that. Kelly's going to be stepping into her role. So she'll still be communicating with you guys some, and involved, but we're excited about what God's doing through her family and seeing them continue to be involved, but giving her some breathing room and some space. So we're super excited, honestly, about both of those because God's moving. And as we've talked about in our message series with Revival, like God is on the move, and doesn't matter what COVID's doing, he's still at work. So that's some staffing stuff we just wanted you all to be aware of with all of that. Finally, okay, what is the actual, so, we clean rooms, people get here, all that kind of stuff. The thing you guys are really here to do, at least most of you, is kind of the group stuff. So what's that going to look like? So we walked a lot of you guys through a program we call Lead Small, still definitely going that track. But we've realized that, that we want to take that slow. We want to make sure our families are comfortable as they come back. And so as much as we're going to continue to do that, our goal is that as they start to come back and get used to attending a certain service, we're going to ask them to start being connected to you as a small group leader and start getting you connected in our new database, which provides us some cool opportunities to do that and some cool opportunities for you to communicate with their parents, to actually lead them well and to get to know those kids and to do life with them in their context of whatever that is. Now, let's all be honest about something as we start back. And this is the reality of groups, okay? Like whether it's nursery, whether it's fifth grade, it's probably going to be hard at first. And so I would fully expect that the first couple of weeks, there are going to be a lot of tears because we have a lot of kids that just have not been used to this, and it's hard. You think I'm maybe not true. I hope I'm wrong. I tried to do a baby dedication the other day, and that kid, I didn't even hold the kid. That kid was struggling just being around somebody else. Like, I think I'm a pretty nice guy. Like, I don't often make babies cry, but that kid wanted no part of me. So we did the 12-foot COVID baby dedication where I was at least 12 foot away so that she wouldn't cry while we did the baby dedication. Like, this is just the reality. A lot of our kids just have not been around other people and have not experienced that. Now, if the kids have been back at school, I think the transition will be great, but especially for our younger kids, we know that it's going to be a transition. And so just expect that because, the reality is, we'll blame it on COVID. I agree. But the reality is we got to own that and know that coming back, that it's going to take a little bit of time for that. I mentioned we set capacity limits. So we've set most of our rooms at 10, depending on the size of the room and square footage, a little higher than that, a little lower, depending on what that is, so that we make sure that you can love on those kids well and those parents are comfortable with that. So in elementary, we're going to give everybody, any kid in there, their own supplies, their own toys. We started this before we went into quarantine and shut everything down. We starting in small groups. We're going to stay in small groups the whole time. But what that means is those kids will be in their small group, spread out around our big auditorium room. They're going to worship from there. They're going to do their group from there. So they're going to drop off and pick up in there. So they're not going to go into the big mosh pit up front. Because, if you want to spread COVID, get a bunch of kids worshiping together. Let's just be honest about it, okay? As awesome as that is, for this season, we're going to ask them to stay in their area with their small group leader and give you some ways to do that. We're still doing teaching from stage, still going to do some great worship with that in that space with that worship team, but they'll just be a little more distance and spread out than we were before. So we're doing some things to build some cool movable barrier kind of stuff and moving some sound booth stuff. Anyway, some stuff in there that will be that'll be helpful for that. The other thing you might notice on there is there is potential, and this is going to obviously require volunteers and manpower, and we're working towards this of actually launching a dedicated preteen space for 4, 5, 6. So for 4th, 5th, and 6th. I would love to see this by the beginning of 2021 because, hey, 2020 is over, so let's start something new and better. If we get to it before then, by all means, but we want to see how the transition goes with people before we start adding something else. We actually have, because Vita moved to Saturdays, we actually have a loft available. So we've already booked that out so nobody else can grab it with the intent of saying, hey, we're going to make a space for our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders because they need it. And we want that for them to allow them to continue to grow in that. So we're excited about what that is and what it will become, but it's coming. So we're looking forward to that. Extraordinary Life. Hey, here's the reality. We've always said this is Extraordinary Life, and I told Josh this on the phone today, our new guy. I said, hey, this is going to be a case-by-case basis. If those kids can join us in the auditorium, awesome. If those kids aren't comfortable there and those parents aren't comfortable, like, we're going to take it like we always have with Extraordinary Life, and we're going to love on those kids well, and whatever that looks like. So that's going to be dependent upon the individual. Really cool thing with preschool is we finally made the move to install TVs in every room that we're going to use. So what you as a preschool leader, if that's you, will get to do is to actually have a TV, not have to worry about a projector or a DVD player, a TV that has a digital digital media reader on it with a single remote that controls everything, that you have a whole library of songs you can use, as well as all the lessons that'll be lined out for you, countdowns, all kinds of cool stuff that will hopefully make that as engaging as you can with preschoolers in that environment, to continue to provide entertaining things that honestly technology just doesn't get in your way, because we know that's been the case, and we don't want that for you guys in that environment. And so once again, we're going to provide their own supplies. If we give them crayons, the crayons are going home with those kids. If we give them paper, it's going home with that kid. We're not collecting things. If we do have hard things like scissors and those kind of things, we'll sanitize all of that. But anything that we can send with them, we're going to send with them because it just makes sense. Hey, we're going to end up with kids who have a lot of crayons by the end of this. Let's just be honest, because do the math. If you attend every week for a month, you got a 16-pack of crayons. Maybe that's a selling point to come into church. I'm just saying, maybe something we should put out there. But we want to make sure that that's done well for all of that. And then obviously, we already mentioned this, we're going to social distance the best we can and all of that. For the nursery, hey, here's the expectation for that. Love on the babies. And so, Aaron, like, amen. You get to hold the babies, and we'll give you the jacket, and pretty much we're going to do whatever it takes to make that baby happy, to make those parents comfortable with leaving their child in an environment that's even harder. Not that it wasn't hard already to, like, take your tiny baby and give it to somebody that you may not know, but this is where consistency and that lead small idea comes in, that when they see you every week at the same time, they're like, I know Erin, and I know she loves my baby, and I know she knows how to love my baby. And so they're going to be that much more comfortable to do that, but we know that does take time. And so we're excited about that. So that's a lot of the group stuff. The other thing we wanted you guys to kind of have an inside view on is at least a brief idea, because questions have come up. Okay, what are our actual adult worship services going to look like? Okay, so the big kid stuff. We are going to ask everybody to register to attend. So what, I shouldn't say register, but at least reserve a spot. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's not twist this too much, because we're going to ask you to reserve a spot to attend. So it's purely for us having an idea of count. We figured with appropriate social distancing, our main auditorium can hold about 750 people, give or take. So we're setting a limit to say, hey, if we get more than 750, we're going to have to figure some other things out. But preference will be given to those who reserve spots first. Those who come and haven't reserved a spot, if we have availability, obviously they're in, but we're going to take it and lean into that to begin with. And the same will be true for our kids. And that's where the capacity issues come in and all that. So Tisha says save a seat is what they're calling it. And that doesn't mean you bring your own little paper and your jacket and your mom's jacket and your big purse and save all the seats. That's not what we're saying in this. This is not the movie theater save a seat style. It is merely for you, and it won't be like assigned seating like you do at Epic where you're in seat, you're in row 3, seat 15. It's merely to say, do we have enough spaces for the people who want to attend? We already mentioned Vita moves to Saturday, so that something else that's going to do is communion and offering. So offering, if you bring in-person offering, super cool. We're not going to pass plates, bags, any of that. There will be boxes on the walls as you enter and exit that people can leave offering at. Communion will be those little cups we started moving to, the individual cups with the peel tops, which people get really good at. You will be greeted by someone at the door who will pick one up with their lovely gloved hand. You will hold your hand open and they will drop it into your hand. So trying to cut down on contact so that you can be comfortable with that as well. And then you can get your awesome tasting wafer and your wonderful grape juice. Is it even grape juice? I don't know. Whatever it is that we consume to remember that Jesus loved us, and maybe he was a fan of grape juice too. I don't know. But the point being that we're doing everything we can to try to make this. The other cool thing that Tisha is launching out with her team, and I mentioned she's taking on the role of our connections director, which means that anything on the adult side in the auditorium falls to her. So that's pretty much what we're going to say with that one. So if you don't like the sound volume, go talk to Tisha. If you don't like the paint color, go talk to Tisha. If you want coffee, go talk to Tisha. I don't know. She pretty much every time I turn around, they've given Tisha another job. So that's what's happening. What I like that you're using green tea at home. I don't know. I like, hey, that could be great. I love it. But yes, Tisha, you're getting orders right now if you're watching the chat. So if you would fill all those for us, that would be great. So Tisha is still helping with Kidlife check-in because that's falling under that bigger host team of what that looks like for her. But she is also then having a greater focus on kind of uniting all of that and bringing it together and making that a great experience. So she is launching out with connection centers. So the Welcome Center is gone. They've expanded the gear store. So the Welcome Center, I know, Lena, you're going to miss your counter in your Welcome Center. Hey, listen, every time I went there, they were always out of the towels and the tiny soaps. And I was like, listen, the hotel counter check-in has to have towels and tiny soaps. And they didn't. And so we got rid of it. No, actually, it's going to be much more open and accessible to people to connect into stuff with that. So we're excited about that. And then, so that's what the services are going to look like for the most part. We hope it's comfortable and enjoyable for people. Not going to make you wear masks. You can if you want. We're going to let you sing because if you can't sing and you come to church, I don't know, we got to sing when we come to church. So we're like all of that, all the stuff you may have heard about other church experiences, like we're doing those things. If you have questions about that, definitely do that. But hey, wanted to let you know about some things to come as we wrap up, and I take field questions from you guys here at the end. One, if the backyard, it should say prayer and worship night. That is Sunday. If you haven't had a chance to reserve that, if you haven't had a chance, I think they're full, but if you reach out to me because you're on this call and you're like, hey, we forgot to reserve and we really want to come, talk to me, we'll get you in the back door or hedge because it's outside, so there's not really a door. But we'll get you in because we want you to be able to be a part of that. They just opened up a few more spots, so get out there.
Opened up a few more spots.
Okay. So get out there and reserve because we want you, if you want to be able to attend that, to be a part of that for sure. And then, so the first major thing that we're doing for Kidlife is we just want to worship with you guys. So on September 20th, not this Sunday, but the next Sunday for all Kidlife leaders at 9:30, we'll send you a reminder of this as well again. We're just getting together. We're going to watch the main service like our community hubs and house parties do. We're going to worship together. We may get our worship team to do a song for us as they talk about what that looks like and starting to get reused to that. As far as that goes, we definitely want you to join. Bring your family. There's not actual Kidlife. It's just us worshiping together. Kind of getting used to being in the building, what that looks like. And then the 27th is our big dry run day where just our volunteers and all volunteers, meaning greeter or hosts, I guess now, not greeters. I don't want to mess that up. Hosts and, parking lot team, Kidlife team, all those, you're all invited to come to our actual worship service where we get to test drive what Kidlife looks like. So we're asking our Kidlife leaders to serve in Kidlife, and then we will host a but a worship service following that, much like our community hubs again, for those who weren't able to participate in that service. But we would love you all to serve. It's going to be at the 9:30 hour, and we'll send you information about this on the 27th, where you get a chance to experience with just the kids and volunteers what it looks like to be in that environment and what it looks like for us to do check-in, what it looks like for us to do activities, all of that kind of stuff. And then the actual big day that we're all kind of gearing towards is the relaunch day of October the 4th. So that day is going to require reservations. We are going to ask, now here's how it works if you're volunteering. Obviously, if we schedule you and you've accepted and you're going to be there, we know that you're showing up for that service. What we would ask you to do is to reserve your spot for the worship service you are actually attending, not that you're serving in. So if you're at the 9:30 hour and you're going to attend the 11:15, we're going to ask you, using that reservation system that you'll learn more about, to actually reserve spots for you and your kids during that hour. We're expecting you for the hour you're serving, but the time on the 20th is 9:30 as well. Thanks, Aaron. That's a great question on that. The first day is, so just walk down those again. The first time we're all getting together just to worship as Kid Life leaders is the 20th of September. It's a Sunday at 9:30. The second one, all these are at 9:30. The second one are dry run with all volunteers where we're actually going to do Kid Life, and we would like for all of you to have a chance to serve, is at 9:30 on the 27th. And then the actual regathering opening day for everybody is October the 4th. And so October the 4th, we'll have 2 services, not just one. It'll have the 9:30 and 11, and you'll get scheduled for that. So hopefully that all made sense. You guys have been shooting great questions out there. Tisha put the backyard worship link in the group chat there, or the Zoom chat. So if you want to jump on that. Parents will be informed. Yes, Aaron, that's a great question. So parents are going to get an email as well as actually some videos. So one of the things that we'll see what we fully form. We may actually ask you guys on the 20th to quickly, it won't be much, to be in videos, just even as background, showing people either checking in or showing people coming to the lobby, all that, just to have people in the video, so that we can shoot a few videos showing parents what some of this stuff looks like, and then actually share that with them, because we know people watch videos more than they do anything else. But one of the things we're waiting on to send that out to parents, and we may have to just do multiple things just to keep parents in the loop, is that actual reservation and check-in system, because we want to make sure that's a big piece of the welcome back. But yeah, parents are going to get a big old piece of communication from us. And so as far as shirts, we definitely want you to wear your shirt on the 27th, because we will have kids. But the 20th, you can wear what you want on that day. It's a great question. And then definitely on the 4th, we're asking masks, of course, on those days as well. Yeah, and honestly, the identifying, that's why I'm not super caught up on the mask look, as long as it's not scary, because your Kid Life shirt's your identifying factor for parents and people. So you'll also get a name tag when you check in, so you'll have that as well, like we normally do. So yeah, hey, what other questions you guys have before we wrap it up? I know it's a lot. You've been drinking through a fire hydrant with some of this. It's all new to you guys, but what other things? You can unmute yourself, or you can do it in the chat. You've been doing awesome doing that. Is parking lot space on the reservation? So we have plenty of parking space, so we should be fine on that. Oh, I'm sorry. I only see parking lot space. I'm sorry, I read your thing wrong there, Ms. Harris. So I only see.
Yes, those extra spots. If you did not reserve a lawn, the only area they were able to open up was for a car. There's no more lawn spaces.
So what I did hear stated at one point with that, and I don't want to misquote anybody on this, was that that the parking, the car parking is FM transmitter. It's right next. It's kind of just sharing space, distance correctly with those sitting on the lawn. But as spots do potentially open up on the lawn as things get started, that may be something you could move to doing as well. What are single-use toys? So that's my terminology. I love it. So that's my terminology for toys that only one child is using. So meaning that, like, it's only for one child to use, not for multiple kids to play with. So like a kitchen would be multiple-use toy because multiple kids can play with it. Single-use toy may be like a car. So hey, that's that kid's car. Like, we're going to give that kid a couple of trucks and blocks or whatever, those kind of things, where it's not something that they all kind of gather and do that. So yeah, so I'm reading through your comments. You guys are doing great. Yes, so every week, as far as reserving spots go, for the time being, for actually attending a service, we're going to ask, it should be the beginning of every week, they'll open up reservations for the coming weekend services. So that's, I think, so you will have to reserve each week to do that. So be mindful of that you'll jump out there and do that. Now, depending on how all this goes and what reservations look like, we'll definitely make exceptions for volunteers and give you preference because you're serving. So if you're giving back, you deserve to be able to attend a service as well. So we'll make that a reality for you guys as well on that. So let's see. Let's see. So you will be getting a lot of communication on all of this going forward. So let me see. The asking about, hey, these dates and that kind of stuff. We'll resend this out. So we send an email, and then what we'll do is that email actually becomes a web page, and then we'll share that web page link out there in text and all those kind of things as well. So I know some of that. As far as the link for signing up and all of that, that is to come. So so on the 27th, Audrey, right now they're only planning on one actual service for our band and tech to run through our main auditorium, and then the second service that we'll do for Kidlife will be in the Kidlife auditorium, and we'll do kind of like community hubs do, where we'll watch the service together and do that. So it is one service in the main auditorium, and then because we know a lot of you are serving and may still want to worship and gather together, we're going to essentially host a second service in the Kidlife auditorium is what we're planning to do with that. So yeah, what else do you guys have before we let you get out of here? You guys have been awesome.
No, only because you're not answering my question.
What's that?
EL, only because certain kids have like a real attachment and could cause like a whole meltdown. Have one of those. Are we making certain exceptions for certain toys with EL? Just curious.
That EL is definitely a different thing on its own, and we want to be mindful of those kids. Obviously, there's, you know, if our foundational goal is to get a parent to church without their kid, then that kind of trumps everything else. And so being cautious and mindful that, hey, we're not turning this into Bring Your American Girl Doll Palooza, which we've tried to get away from, and love me some American Girl dolls, but you know, 20 of them.
No purse or teddy bear, water bottle, you know, okay. But, dinner, you know, from the night before. Okay.
So when you look over and realize that a little girl has brought her entire makeup kit in her bag in the Kidlife auditorium, you're like, okay, that's not needed right now. That's great. You're doing your friend's makeup, but we're good. So, yeah, so that, but yes, there will always be, especially, and that's where Lead Small is so important, because we get to know people, and you get to know, hey, these are toys these kids love. These are things these kids love. These are people they love, and we get to love on them well. So, so you guys have been awesome. Like I said, we'll send a follow-up email with all of this to you guys. Thanks for hanging out. I know it's a lot of stuff. It's another way for us to communicate, but it is a lot of stuff that's not super exciting. But ultimately, we're excited just to be back with you guys and get to hang out with kids and get to love on their families and get to love on you guys as well in the midst of all of this. And so obviously this is yeah. So the max, and we'll send some of this out as well. So our max for, there are different maxes for different groups, but for Kidlife, let me think, I want to say it was 20 per grade, is what we roughly stated out there. And so as far as fingerprinting and background checks, we are doing that. We're going to offer that on the 20th for those who need fingerprinted. Here's the beautiful thing. If you've already been fingerprinted with us and background checked and we need to renew it, you don't have to get fingerprinted again. Apparently it's cheaper for us, and we can go online and just renew that. So I found that out today, and I was like, so once you're background checked with us, like, you don't have to do it again. We just have to renew it for you. So that, yeah, praise the Lord on that one. So that came out today. So, hey, it was a winning day. We got a fun fogger, and we found out we can do background checks. So, well, hey, let me pray you guys out of here.
Can I make a plug in, Bryce? If any of you are interested in helping serve on this Sunday for the prayer, I don't know if you're okay with this, Bryce, but we're still looking for people to help out with greeting, parking lot, different things like that. Please let me know or Bryce know, because we would love the extra hands if you're willing to do that. So I'm just kind of making a plug here. So if you, I know many of you are attending, and that's perfectly okay too. But if you want to serve along with it, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Definitely plug it in. So, yeah, there's a couple of things this weekend. There's a MOPS event on Saturday, and then there's that on Sunday. So I just share those things because church is happening. It's starting back, and we're starting to get things rolling in person again. So we're excited about that and to be a part of that. So, So yeah, as far as getting your hubby background check, that's definitely something we can take care of on the 20th, or we'll schedule other times as well. So we'll start getting back in the habit of doing background checks and making sure, because we've got some new people we need to onboard as well. But we're definitely going to make that a confirm today. We're going to make that available on the 20th during that, so it's a convenient time to do it. And then I think we'll probably do some others leading some of those startup weekends as well. So thanks for asking that. Well, hey, let me pray for you guys, and then we're going to let you all get out of here. I appreciate you being here with us. Father, just blessed to have this group of people, blessed to just be able to share with them what it is that we feel like you've put before us and how we're going to do that well. We just pray for those that are going to attend our services, because the ultimate reason we do this is to glorify you, and for no other reason than that, so that our families can glorify you, with how they raise their kids, with how they show them who you are. And so thank you for allowing us to be a part of that. Thank you for using this team to do that well, Father. We are just grateful for everything that you do for us, have done, and continue to do. In your holy and awesome name we pray. Amen. Thanks, guys.
Bryce, thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys soon. All right.
Bye.
Bye.